The Golden State Warriors have a big problem. As you all know, the NBA season just started and the Golden State Warriors faced off against the Phoenix Suns, where they actually ended up losing 104 to 108. In today's video, we're going to be going through the key problems with the Golden State Warriors and why they lost this game against the Phoenix Suns, and also how they can improve on it in the future to help them win an NBA championship. So make sure to like this video, and guys, 92% of you are still not subscribed to the channel, so it'd mean the world if you could subscribe to the channel, hit that red button down below. The first big problem was that the Golden State Warriors ran the small ball that didn't really work very well against the Phoenix Suns. Now, as you all know, the Warriors did run a bit of a small ball lineup where they had Steph Curry, Chris Paul, Klay Thompson, Andrew Wiggins, and Kevon Looney as their starting lineup. Now, that may not be such a small lineup, but against a team like the Phoenix Suns, who have Kevin Durant, Nurkic, Okogie, Grayson Allen, and also Devin Booker, it was a little bit of a mismatch nightmare. One of the reasons for this is that Chris Paul is only 6 foot, guys, and he isn't really the best defender out there, but you do have to give him credit where credit is due. He did the best that he could at 6 foot, but if you are guarding a guy that's 3, 4, and even 5 inches taller than you, it really does get very difficult, especially if there are any switches. And you definitely saw that during the game. You saw Phoenix Suns running a lot of pick and roll that would try to get the switch for someone like Chris Paul or also Stephen Curry, who are probably the 2 weakest defenders on that starting 5, and that is definitely where the Phoenix Suns were able to do their best. And I think that was the whole game plan throughout the whole game. You definitely saw that throughout from first quarter all the way to fourth quarter, that they did run a lot of pick and rolls to get them open and to get them switched on onto Curry or CP3. Now, don't get me wrong, Curry and Chris Paul are great defenders and they do the best that they can, but like I mentioned before, guys, you know, a couple of those 3, 4 inches guarding someone taller than you, it does get really tough to stay in front, and you know, especially with a different stature, it really does also play a huge part. So I'm not saying that CP3 and Curry are bad defenders, but when it comes to a matchup against KD, it is going to be a mismatch and Durant can definitely go to work. Where we saw glimpses of the Golden State Warriors doing a very good job defensively was definitely when Jonathan Kuminga is out there, and maybe if CP3 or Curry was sitting out. One of the reasons for this is that they did have more of a defensive minded setup, and also on top of that, they did also have a taller lineup, so if there were any switches, it was definitely easier to switch back or, you know, to contain for that one possession. And I think moving forward, yes, the small ball will work in certain teams, but a team like Phoenix Suns, it does get tough, as Kevin Durant is a 7-foot scorer and you need someone tall enough and also has the same speed and quickness to be able to guard him. And players like Wiggins, Jonathan Kuminga, and also even Klay Thompson are the types of players you want on him. The second big problem is the Golden State Warriors shot poorly from the 3-point line. Now, as you all know, the Golden State Warriors are known to be a 3-point shooting team. Having players like Curry, Klay, Wiggins, and all others are definitely 3-point shooters, but they did struggle quite a lot. You had Stephen Curry, who only shot 4 from 14. You also had Klay Thompson, who shot 3 from 11. Now, in total, as a team, they actually shot 10 from 43, which is only 23% from the 3-point line. To put in perspective, if we look at some of the players, you had Wiggins, who shot 0 from 3, and also Chris Paul, who shot 0 from 6. So it definitely was a bit of a struggling shooting night for the Golden State Warriors as a whole. Yes, you had Steph and also Klay hitting a couple of threes, but as a whole, as a team, they definitely need to continue to improve and definitely get those 3 numbers up. Now, obviously, Phoenix Suns definitely do know this, and I think that's one of their defensive strategies, was to definitely force up tough 3-point shots, which they did a fantastic job of. And this is where the inside presence needs to start being felt. I think players such as Wiggins and also others such as Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, who are definitely more inside players, could have definitely taken more advantage of it, as they did focus more on the 3 and start attacking the basket much more. Now, if we look at the Phoenix Suns, they didn't shoot as well, but they still shot a team average of 33%, which is really good, especially if you look at compared to the Warriors numbers. That 10% difference definitely made up that 5-point difference between the team. Even if you had 2 threes from the Golden State Warriors extra and they actually went 12 from 43, they would have won this game. And I think that's what makes this so important, guys. Efficiency definitely does matter, and especially in situations like this. Obviously, they are still getting used to playing with each other, but I do believe they did get the good looks that they did want. However, I do believe they need to knock it down more consistently, and this isn't only for Steph or Klay, but this is everyone as a team, as Wiggins went from 0, also Chris Paul also hit 0, and others such as them. The third big problem is the Golden State Warriors did very poorly from the rebounding side of things. Now, when it comes to the Warriors, yes, they did run a small ball lineup, and this could be related to the small ball lineup that they ran, but they did have a very poor rebounding compared to the Phoenix Suns. Now, if we look at the Golden State Warriors, they actually had a rebound rebounding total of 49 rebounds. However, on the other side of the Phoenix Suns, they had a total rebounding total of 60 rebounds. So that's 11 rebound difference, guys. And yes, that may not sound like a lot, but that could be converted into points of 2 points or even 3 points if it was second chance points, or even the other way on the defensive end. And I think they definitely do add up here and there. I think it is very important to actually understand that rebounds can definitely change a game, especially with a game that's this close where they did only end up losing by 4 points. So, a couple of more offensive rebounds for the Golden State Warriors, and we could have seen them tie the game or even win it. And because of those reasons, I definitely do believe the Warriors need to continue to work on rebounding. Now, I don't know whether there's a problem of height, because obviously the Warriors did have some good matchups with KD on Wiggins, Kevon Looney on Nurkic, vice versa. But when it comes to the rebounding total, I definitely do believe that Chris Paul, Steph Curry are definitely some players that allowed quite a few rebounds and more than expected. You had Devin Booker, who had 6 rebounds, and you also had someone like Okogie, who had 5 rebounds, and Grayson Allen, who had 4. Now, don't get me wrong, these players are great rebounders, and especially if they go up against someone that isn't really too much of a rebounder like Steph or CP3, it definitely starts to add up. So I definitely do believe this is a part of the game they definitely need to work on and definitely need to focus on, due to the fact that if they are going to run small ball, rebounds is definitely where they may be beaten, and they need to find a way to prevent this from happening in the future in order to prevent second chance points, which is what the Phoenix Suns were able to get on a lot of these offensive rebound opportunities. They did get 17 offensive rebounds, and if you do convert that into second chance points, guys, that definitely adds up to a lot. However, a great thing about the Golden State Warriors is that Chris Paul fits the Warriors playstyle. Now, I think this is something that was super intrigued by a lot of NBA fans and also Warriors fans, but they didn't know whether Chris Paul in the Warriors would work, but we definitely saw it work in this matchup. Now, don't get me wrong, Phoenix Suns is considered one of the favorites to win the NBA championship, and Golden State Warriors aren't considered even close to them. However, they did only end up losing by 4 points, and this is why this is such a big deal. I think when it comes to CP3 playing for the Warriors, it definitely has boosted their organization basketball, and it also definitely does help out on the offensive and defensive end. They definitely have that leader out there, and although Draymond Green is definitely that leadership role, since he was out, I think it is great to have someone like CP3 to lead the way while he's gone. And I think that's what makes this lineup such a superb and definitely such an offensive threat. They definitely have CP3 who can definitely give you a bucket, but greater than that, he is able to find the players very, very well. CP3 did a great job having 14 points, 9 assists, and also 6 rebounds, while also accumulating 2 steals. So he did a fantastic job all around, and I think when it comes to, what he was capable of doing out there on the floor, he did the best he can. Yes, he had a bit of a tough shooting night from the 3, going 0 from 6, but it is the first game. Obviously, everyone is going to be a bit rusty coming into the first game of the season, but I do believe when it comes to the way he played, it didn't feel awkward. It didn't feel like he was just placed there with a bunch of players that didn't know how to play. It did really move smoothly, and I think CP3 has definitely uplifted the offense much, much more than people expected. And this is what we're going to need from CP3 moving on, especially not only during the season, but in playoff time and hopefully even championship time as well. Another great thing about the Golden State Warriors was Jonathan Kuminga. Now, I think Jonathan Kuminga definitely did show that he is able of playing 20-25 minutes and having a huge role for this team. Now, don't get me wrong, you had Steph Curry who played well, Klay Thompson played pretty well. Everyone did a pretty good job, especially against a team like the Phoenix Suns. I think Jonathan Kuminga definitely did show that he's able to be a huge role for this team, especially against bigger players such as the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, and others. Now, when it comes to Kuminga's stats, he did actually have 12 points, 2 steals, 1 block, 6 rebounds, and also 1 assist. So he did a fantastic job, I think, all game around. And I do believe when it comes to Jonathan Kuminga, what he definitely did show is a lot of heart and a lot of professionalism out there. Obviously, Kuminga being a young guy, you do definitely see a lot of low IQ plays from younger guys in the league. But when it comes to Kuminga, you can definitely see he plays like a professional. He's able to make rotations very easily, and he definitely has a high IQ when he plays basketball. And this definitely comes from not only just playing in the NBA, but I think the guidance of such smart players such as Chris Paul, Draymond Green, Steph, Klay, the list list really does go on and on. But I do believe Kuminga is going to have a big role for this team. What I would have loved to seen from him, especially in the most recent game, was definitely a lot more three-point shots. He was playing a lot more inside basketball. However, I do believe they were giving Kuminga quite a lot of space at times where he had the opportunity to definitely not only just score, but score from the three-point line. And I definitely think he needs to become more confident in taking those shots, especially if players like CP3, Wiggins, and others were not really hitting them just as consistently. But this is definitely going to come in due time. But when it comes to Kuminga having a big role for this team, this has been a huge question, not only just to NBA fans, but Warriors fans, whether he's up for the challenge. And I think in this first game, it definitely did show that. To go up against Phoenix Suns and to verse some of the top players such as KD and also Devin Booker and be the guy that's marking both of them, he did a great job. Kevin Durant did only have 18 points, which I think they did a fantastic job at stopping him. Devin Booker had himself a pretty good night at 32 points. But like I said, guys, these are NBA superstars for a reason, and they are definitely going to give you a bucket. But the fact that Kevin Durant was held to only 18 points, I think they did a great job there. It's just a matter of time before they figure out the secret to have them both on the floor. But having him come off the bench really did wonders for the team.